Anyway, onto the interior offensive line. And Dave, we finally get to put the cheat. We might finally get to put the cheat code to actual use here.
Yes.
So, for those of you who don't know and don't follow the show, we're huge fans of Josh Norris of Underdog Fantasy. His cheat code. So, Josh Norris of Underdog Fantasy uncovered a statistic for offensive linemen that is like foolproof, right? Almost foolproof. And here's the statistic. Since 2010, just 36 offensive linemen have recorded a 4.47 short shuttle or better at the NFL Combine. 31 of them were drafted. Those 31 players went on to start 80% of their NFL games. Here's the kicker. There's no one from last year who reached that benchmark. So the goal is we got to get some guys to reach that benchmark here. Now the Buffalo Bills might need an interior offensive lineman here in 2026. But here are some of the guys who have had a shuttle time under 4.47. We're talking guys drafted in round one. Nate Solder, Anthony Costanzo, Eric Fisher, Zion Johnson, Jake Matthews. Guys drafted in the second round. Joel Bitonio, Xavier Suafilo, Ali Moppet, Jason Spriggs, James Daniels, Ezra Cleveland. Guys drafted in the third round. Abraham Lucas, Dominic Pooney, Joe Noteboom. Guys drafted in the fourth round. Tanner Bortolini, Zach Tom, Mason McCormick. Guys drafted in the fifth round. John Urschel, Joe Haig, Jason Kelsey. Guys drafted in the sixth round. David Questenberry. Sixth round, Matthew Paratus. Sixth round, Chase Roulier. Seventh round, Charles Leno Jr. You even have undrafted guys like Ryan Groy, who started 20 games in this league, right? So the shuttle drill is crazy, right? So that's number one. If the Bills, for some reason, really need an interior offensive line help because they don't bring Edwards back, they don't bring McGovern back, the short shuttle is going to become a huge thing to watch next week and getting under that 4.47. But I think there are four statistics that I'm looking at. The short shuttle at under 4.47, arm length, I need 32 plus inch arms. Even if they're on the interior, I need 32 plus inch arms. A good 10-yard split, maybe something under 171, and a 3-cone drill under 7.69, right? That would be considered above average. So to me, when I'm looking at the measurables, it's 3-cone, it's 10-yard split, it's arm length, and it's short shuttle. And if we're really diving into the offensive lineman this year because of need, if these two guys aren't retained, those are the four things that I'm looking for at the NFL Combine.
Yeah, and I think that's a really valid point because I think what a lot of people will do, especially with offensive lines, is they'll look at the bench press first, right? And they'll obviously it's a fun thing to look at, but those four individual things you mentioned are in conjunction almost more important, I think, in a lot of cases. And the arm length to me, I think, is an interesting one because
Super Bowl.
We talk about it every year as like, oh, this guy's a good prospect, but his arm length, should we we really shouldn't overlook it that much because we see it comes into play more than you realize in some of these cases. And it could be the difference between a split second of your quarterback getting away versus him getting on the ground. So look, I know every prospect's different. It's not fair to say that generally, but I think when you take those four measurables that you mentioned in connection with each other, it makes a good picture there. So I will certainly be looking out for those as we kind of start down this journey of offensive line research.
And if we look at the guys who are, there might be a couple of guards that actually slip into round one this year. If not, like some of the day two guys, again, Ione out of Penn State could be a first round guy. Prignan from Oregon could slip into the first round. Definitely a day two guy. Basantis could slip into round one. He's a guy I mentioned on social media, could be in play at 26. He's for sure a day two guy. Jennings Dunker, Keelan Rutledge, Bo Stevens, Jaden Roberts, Cage Casey. If we transition over to center, Connor Liu will not test because of the ACL, unfortunately, but Jake Slaughter, Sam Hecht, Brian Parker, Parker Brailsford, Logan Jones, there's a dozen or so names here of guys who could go on day two of the draft. And I'm going to be looking at them, not just with the tape, but in the prism of these four statistics. And tie goes to maybe the winner of the guy who has the better overall of these four measurables. So that'll be really interesting to look out for over the course of this process. The other thing that I want to keep my eye out for is I always look for tackles kicking inside. It's something
Yeah.
I always look for.
Yeah,
So
that's smart.
my ears are going to be open for, and I know Aaron Cromer was a big, um, Aaron Cromer was a big on that. So I'm gonna be taking a listen for any of the pundits during Combine Week talking about hearing about guys kicking inside or like any of the inside information about tackles kicking inside. Brian Parker from Duke is one of my favorite guys in this class, day 2 guy, following the footsteps of Graham Barton, right, who went
Yeah,
from
Graham
tackle to
Barton.
center. That could be Brian Parker now going from tackle to center. He had a huge Shrine Week. You have Drew Shelton from Penn State, who is a tackle. I think he could be a really good guard. Falili Fayome out of Wake Forest, really good tackle. I think he could be a better guard. Not invited to the combine, Tristan Lee out of Clemson. I really like him. And then you have Caden Proctor, who could probably get us into our Bruce Feldman's freak list. Nice little segue there. As and maybe a possible round 1 guy, early round 2 guy. Very polarizing candidate. So to me, I'm always looking for the tackle to center transition.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, a couple of the guys you mentioned, I think at center too, like with Lou's injury, like I'm really starting to like Jake Slaughter, the center out of Florida. Um, he came into the season as one of the top ranked centers. I think some outlets had him as their number 1 center. Uh, he dropped a bit, I think, over the past over the season, like he was 15th overall on PFF's board before the season. Now he's like in the 70s. Um, this guy has been consistent. He's progressively gotten better. 3-time SEC academic honor roll. Um, he is a guy that I think now maybe becomes maybe the top center off the board. And if the Bills do not bring back Connor McGovern, I am really interested in Jake Slaughter um and yeah, I mean that's something that like we really haven't had to look at centers a ton since the Creed Humphrey Boogie Basham um
Mhm.
mishap, but I think it's a decent center draft
Yeah.
actually.
There's a
Yeah, so
I mean,
like
Bruce Feldman's
Heck's
freak
another
list.
one.
I'm about to talk. Yeah, Hecht is
Yeah,
a good one. I'm about to talk about
yep.
2 guys from Bruce Feldman's freak list here.
Let's hear it. Let's hear it.
You got Parker Brailsford from Alabama,
Yep.
505 bench, 675 squat, 385 power clean, 33-inch vert. Was tested at running 19.47 miles per hour on the GPS. So he's got elite strength and movement ability for a 290 pound plus guy. And then Logan Jones out of Iowa, 705-pound squat, which is a program record at Iowa. Offensive lineman U,
Logan
36
Jones,
points,
big fan.
30,
Big fan.
30, 36.6 vert, 470 hang, 153 10-yard split. So he's like a basketball athlete, explosive wise, in a 300-pound body. So Logan Jones, Parker Brailsford, Brian Parker, Jake Slaughter,
Yep.
Hesht, like there's a ton of names here for consideration at center.
Yeah, I mean Logan Jones, I'm glad you mentioned him. I mean, I have like flags all over him in my notes um as like a top like one of my
Mhm.
top guys. Highest pass blocking grade of all centers in the class with at least 500 snaps. Only allowed 2 pressures from the center position on 336 pass blocking snaps in 2025. So, big fan of Logan Jones. Like this is one of those interesting conversations, right? If the Bills like don't bring back McGovern and Edwards, right? And their resources in free agency go to other positions. Like all of a sudden, some of these guys become maybe priorities for this team if they don't
Mhm.
feel super confident that like SVGP can start at center this year, or if they don't want to like move Alec Anderson into center and like he might not even get tendered, right? So we don't even know what's going to happen there. So um the Bills have been kind of fortunate to not have to worry about the offensive line. Do they attempt to retain some continuity so they don't create another hole? Or do they say, hey, look, we're going to use resources elsewhere because this formula with the offensive line, although it's been great, hasn't really gotten us to where we need to go? Like, you can make the argument either way, right? So I like a lot of these guys, especially on the interior in this draft. I think I'll say it again. I think for what the Bills need right now, even though this overall draft may not be like the sexiest or the most star-studded for the positions the Bills need. I think there is a lot of depth at the positions the Bills need in this draft, especially on the defensive side of the ball. And right now, what we're talking about in the interior offensive line at center and guard.